The best time of year to remove moss from roof tiles is now or very soon. Now, this isn't a trick question. This obviously depends on your personal circumstances and financial situation as to whether you can actually hire a professional roof cleaner to come out to your property and clear and clean your roof and treat it. But from our professional perspective, as expert roofers, the best time to remove moss from roof tiles or any roofing structure is at the point of when you realize that it is a problem. And this is irrespective of the season. This isn't a trick question. As professional roofers, we believe roof cleaning is necessary work. Now, I appreciate and understand that some of our customers, a lot of our customers, get roof cleaning purely for the aesthetic outcome where the roof looks so much better, they just like it and prefer it more. But we also view it, and some of our customers come to us for this reason, as a preventative measure. They are preventing more costly work in the future. Moss, if neglected, will cause more issues as time goes on, especially if it's getting in between roof tiles or getting underneath roof tiles. It can within normally if you've got moss on a roof and it's very thick, or the gutters are blocking up, or you're noticing it drop onto the driveway or the patio every single day, there's a chance that it is at the very least beginning to hold water, and water itself will cause its own problems further down the line. So the way I view it, and it's nothing about roof cleaning is really an exact science, but the way I view it is that within 5 to 10 years, maybe it'll take longer, maybe shorter if it's really bad, more costly work would be required if you neglected to get your roof cleaned. And more costly work could be anything. It could be the investigation of finding out where a leak is, and that can sometimes take a lot of time of a professional, competent roofer to take off the tiles, lift up the battens, actually find out the source of damage elsewhere within the property, damp, things like this. And that requires time, which requires money, which tends to be more costly and expensive than roof cleaning. You may need a new roof. Roof tiles can become damaged. You may need more roof tiles in the future. So all of these things cost more than roof cleaning. As professional, so roof cleaning is the most cost-effective way to deal with any issues on the roof. Now, there's no point, it's just like anything else in life, there's no point in putting a problem off into the future. The only reason I would suggest this is because, you know, you've personal circumstances, you just don't have enough money right now. Neglecting accumulation of moss and organic matter on your roof, it doesn't make the problem go away. It's as simple as that. Now, once you've actually identified that you have a problem and you need your roof cleaned, one of the most common questions that we get asked, and it is a very good question, is when is the best time of year to remove moss from a roof? From our professional perspective, summer is the kind of most comfortable time for us to clean a roof. However, it's available all year round, because in the wetter months, in autumn and winter, it's actually more of an urgent thing. People don't necessarily call us for a quote in autumn and winter for roof cleaning, although lots of people do, because they appreciate that the source of the problem is moss, especially if the gutters are overflowing, or you can see things blowing down, or the moss is holding water and that's causing other issues. However, a lot of people are just calling us in those colder, wetter months because they have these urgent and essential need for repair, maintenance, things like this. And then we realize and advise that roof cleaning should be part of their solution. So we work all year round for roof cleaning. We work all year round, and that's actually true for all of our other roofing activities too. So do not hesitate. The reason why we like the summer is because it's warm. Well, nothing's guaranteed in the UK, but it tends to be warmer, so it's more enjoyable. Obviously, we should put our sun cream on, drink water, do all the things that a sensible person should do. But yeah, all year round, there is no best season necessarily. Bad weather makes a moss problem worse. Summer is the least complicated time for us as roofers to clean and clear a roof. But the winter months, the colder and wetter months, are basically the most essential times for people who have this roof moss accumulation issue. Unlike other plants in the UK, moss does not die in the winter. It doesn't need to dig down deep with roots for it to be able to grip and clamp onto hard surfaces like roof tiles, for example. It also doesn't need the sunlight to survive. Not only does it not have issues surviving in the winter, it actually thrives. This is one of the reasons why you may notice that the moss can often grow more on one side of the roof, which tends to be the north facing side of the roof, because there's more shade for more time in the day. Despite not having roots, they can actually make use of the gaps, and they do petal and flower and produce a lot of spores, which they spread very easily. And this is one of the reasons why they're so effective at taking over an area like a roof. They take advantage of our British weather of rain and wind and damp and shade and dark dreary days. It's actually a massive advantage for them, unlike other plants. So this is one of the reasons why they're able to spread more often, and is also one of the reasons why they can become so problematic in these wet. As well as being spore super spreaders, they will also remain in an area and bunch up and colonize, and they will take over the area and become a self-feeding unit as they weave together and continue to nourish each other. And then they will also group up with other organic matter that can become problematic or visually displeasing on the eye, such as algae and lichen. And this is why often what started off as a few years of very gradual moss accumulation can suddenly kind of burst within 1 or 2 wet seasons. In the UK, we always have 2, 3, maybe even more cold snaps during the winter where the temperatures plummet and plunge below zero. And what starts off as a nuisance can actually morph into like a rooftop grenade, where as the temperatures freeze, the moss, when it gets wet, it can expand. Now, if the moss has weaved itself and become ingrained in between the tiles in some way, as this expansion happens, this is when you start seeing that damage, the cracks, and the broken tiles that need fixing. Excuse me. So when this happens, when we clean the roof, then it becomes an even more surgical procedure, because then we're taking into consideration the pre-existing damage of the roots that have been lifted up. So instead of kind of just tugging on them and making it worse, this is when we'll rely more heavily on the treatment. Now, we use the treatment as part of our soft wash roof clean as a standard procedure, but we rely more heavily on the treatment as opposed to the manual removal. And often, unfortunately, there's no way around it. We have to recommend further remedial work, repair work, maintenance work at a later date, because actually removing the moss can expose you to rain, especially if you've got broken tiles. So then the roof cleaning, what started out as you asking for a simple roof clean, has become into more of a complicated job that requires patience, nous, and expertise. Now, this isn't true of most. I'm just saying this as kind of one of the worst case scenarios of neglecting your roof and then having moss in the winter. So you might get away with it. You may have already got away with a few winters where the moss hasn't really caused you any problems. Your gutters haven't overflowed. You've not had any broken tiles. You've had no structural decay in the battens, although you might not be aware of that anyway, even if that is happening and building up right now. And you've had no condensation or damp issues upstairs in your property on the inside. Even if all of that has not happened and you think that the moss isn't really causing an issue, if you leave it, eventually that will happen. And even if you're planning to move, and I've had this conversation with people before, they say, well, it's not my problem because I'm not going to be here. Well, you should probably do it anyway, even if you are planning to move. It's just the best thing to do, because it's only going to get picked up in a survey anyway if you've got if the buyer of your property has got a decent surveyor who goes around and looks. They're gonna pick out all these issues. So even if you're not planning to remain in the property, you should still probably do it from your own selfish perspective. These are all things for you to consider, things for us to consider as professional roofers, is actually how do we tackle a roof clean in the winter months. And like I've said, we work in all seasons, but there is a slight change in approach and things for us to consider. Number one being the days are shorter and there is often frost in the mornings. So we can't start at 8 a.m. None of our roofers can start at 8 a.m., for example. We can arrive on site at 8 a.m. if it's possible. But if it's dark, if it's frosty, that might not be something that we're able to do. You also need to think about it from the perspective of if it is frosty and it has been icy overnight and the moss has frozen in some way, the sun might not be actually going over the property onto the roof until mid to late morning. So the days really are shorter then, and we can't chisel it off because we'll just cause damage. So that's not something for you to consider, that's something for us to consider. Also, like I've said, and you don't need me to tell you, in Britain, depending where you are, I'm originally from Manchester up north, it rains a lot. It rains a lot. So even though we're all happy, and I really do mean that happy because we like to do our job, we like to earn money, we are happy to work in rain if it's raining. Obviously, we need to take into consideration health and safety when approaching the roof, and that's true in all seasons, all weather. Part of the roof cleaning that we do is mostly a soft wash, so we can manually brush the roof tiles as long as they're not frozen with the moss and organic matter on there. However, when it comes to actually applying the treatment, which is often sodium or a biocide, we don't want it to wash straight off because that is literally money down the drain. It's not cheap anymore. In the last 2 years, I'm speaking here in 2024. In the last 2 years, the prices of sodium have fluctuated quite a lot, but they have gone up. Like everything else in our economy in our country, it has gone up. So we do not want to see sodium just washing off and not sticking to the tiles and going down the drain, because that's money down the drain from us and it reduces our profit. Also, we don't want you to call us in a few months and say the moss has come straight back, because that means the treatment hasn't worked, it hasn't stuck. That's the most likely thing. So what we want is we want it to be relatively dry on the roof tiles and not raining at that moment. Light drizzle shortly before, shortly after, probably not an issue. But at that moment, we want it to stick. To the roof tiles. So if you're a 1-day roof clean or a 2-day roof clean, it's almost always going to be in the afternoon when this happens, and it immediately follows up on the manual brush. So that's something for us to consider. You don't need to know these things, but I'm just trying to explain to you from your perspective and our perspective when is the best time of year to get your roof cleaned. So that's autumn and winter, what I call the wetter months, the colder months for roofing, when some roofers actually just don't work, which is fair enough. They try and earn as much money by doing back-to-back work in summer and spring, and then they take a break and think, no, I'm not dealing with any of this pressure or any of this stress, all these things outside of our control in the winter, like weather, dark, cold, temperature, even traveling to and from a job. More accidents seem to happen in the winter on the roads. So there's all these things, all these extraneous variables that are just simply outside of our control, but we do not refuse work. We see it as an opportunity. And like I've said, from your perspective, if it's now autumn and winter when you're watching this video, you probably need to get your roof cleaned if you've already started noticing problems. You're kind of gambling if you're going to wait till next summer or next spring. Even though you think it's a good idea, excuse me, I see it as a gamble. But it's completely... After being in this industry for a few years, it's very obvious that people, customers, maybe yourself included, truly believe that the spring or summer is the best time of year to get your roof cleaned. Maybe not. From our perspective, yeah, it's easier, it's warmer, stay hydrated, wear sunscreen if it's a hot day, we're very exposed up on the roof. The treatment's not normally an issue. What I would say is you're still going to get rain in July. A couple of years ago, I'm sure we had the wettest May on record, so a lot of our roof cleans were postponed. April showers is still a very real thing. We still have thunderstorms that follow hot weather in July and August. So there really is kind of no panacea of weather, unless maybe you're in the southeast of England and it's June, July, August, and you get more consistent sun. For everyone and everywhere else, you, you might get a nicer day in February than you do in July, and that's the truth. Things for you to consider. What I'd say is getting early. If you're watching this in February, March, or April, get in early, get a booking. It's our busiest time with the most inquiries. We do tend to take a deposit, just a small one, just to confirm your booking, just to avoid loss of cash and cash flow from late cancellations and postponements. So yeah, and just to reiterate and hammer home the point, best time of year to remove moss is as soon as you notice that it's an issue. If you've got any questions or you'd like me to clarify anything, please reach out. You can go to the roofing.club. There is a link on our page here, or you can just type it into Google. Look at all the information on the website. We do try and put some information on the website that will help people to answer their questions. Reach out. If you want a quote, it's free. For a roof clean, we tend to be able to do it remotely for 99% of domestic properties. You can either email a photograph, or you can send your address, and we can try to look on Google Earth just to gauge the size of the property, the construction, any issues with access, type of tiles. All of these things we take into account, but it's a relatively quick process, and we can calculate your quote, give you a price and a recommended process, which tends to be soft washing, all within 10 to 15 minutes. So if you get in touch and you send us an email, we will guarantee that within 24 hours you'll have a price from us, a process, and some suggested dates for availability. What I would say is, it is better to send the photograph rather than the Google Earth, because the Google Earth might not be up to date. And even though it is an amazing tool, and I really do love it for this job, we assume the kind of worst case scenario for moss coverage. So if you send us an up-to-date photo, we can see how bad the moss coverage is, as well as all the other variables we're taking into account to calculate your price. So I recommend doing that. I recommend actually sending us your address so we can still use Google Earth, but then also sending us a photo, just attach one from the front and the back, just so we can gauge how it is right now today. And that's how we can give you a fixed price that does not change on the day. You have our price, which won't change, our process, which will not change, our availability, so you know when we can do it. And if it is one of the busier times of year, we will ask for a deposit. And yeah, then you can ask us any questions. You're free to go and get quotes from elsewhere. But yeah, please get in touch if you have any questions. There will be other videos on this YouTube channel that you may find interesting. Maybe you won't. Maybe you just want to get your roof cleaned, forget about all of this roofing stuff and move on. But if you are interested in roofing, click like, subscribe, share the video, and get in touch. Have a good day.